Welcome back, everybody who comes and listens to my podcast every week for another episode with me and my inspiring guests that have inspiring stories. Today, I have Carly Pepin. Carly Pepin is an incredibly insightful and inspiring guest. She is a distinguished human being who is also a human behavior specialist whose journey and expertise offer a wealth of knowledge and inspiration. Carly's path has been marked by overcoming significant challenges, traumatic experiences, navigating the complexities of entrepreneurship and business, and a relentless love for continuing to learn and grow every day and educate herself. In this episode, Carly will share her personal story from the influences of entrepreneurship of her childhood to the powerful lessons learned from being in business, facing challenges and adversities that come from being a business owner. We also dive into the humbling power of feedback and balancing criticism with praise, the intricate dynamics of parenting. Carly also offers transformative strategies for clearing trauma, but also learning to live with it, and authenticity in professional settings, and the importance of gratitude. Without further ado, I welcome you, Carly Pepin. Enjoy. Before we get into the episode, guys, hit that subscribe wherever you are. Leave an awesome rating and review, and share some comments down below. I appreciate it. See you in the episode. Welcome to the Unwritten podcast with your host, Thomas Malpass, where we are on a mission to help the world find more purpose, passion, and peace in their everyday lives. Through deep conversations and connection, tune in because we are all on this journey of life together. So how was your morning?
Pretty good. Yeah, just working, exercise, the norm. What about you?
Same.
Yeah.
I edited a video for Instagram. Took me like 3 hours to freaking edit like a 30-second, or I don't even think it was 30, like 20 seconds. It was like 20 seconds, but it took me like 3 hours because I'm still trying to figure out how to use Adobe.
Yeah.
So
I gave up.
It's like, no, literally, Adobe, they said it's used to, it has the capabilities to edit like movies that go in theaters.
Adobe's
So,
amazing. Yeah.
yeah,
It's a really
you can do so much if you like actually know how to utilize it. So
It's a great program. I used to work for a photographer studio, and so that's when I learned how to use Adobe, and it's amazing. Like the things that are possible are phenomenal. And yeah, I definitely don't use it to the degree that I know is possible, but I don't have my own podcast or anything either, so I don't think I'd even take the time to learn it to the degree. You have a different basically outcome than I do. Yeah.
yeah, I can send you the clip after this, but I don't know, it's like a good feeling sometimes. I don't know if you
When
ever
you get
feel
it.
like, oh no, like when you just are proud of your work.
Yeah. Well, it's like you
Like,
accomplished something. It's like you got to that other side and you put so much effort into it and you look at it and you're like, yeah, that's what
you're
I
like,
wanted.
damn, I did that.
I did that and that's what I wanted. Yeah.
But I start every podcast pretty much the same. I just like to know who you are, on a deeper level, and how you ultimately got to where you are right now and what you're doing. So the first question is, can you tell me who you are and share some experiences that maybe from your past, your childhood, your teenage years, your young adult, whatever experiences that ultimately led to where you are now?
Absolutely. So, my name is Carly Pepin. I'm a human behavior specialist, and individuals come to me when they're feeling stuck, when they're feeling challenged by circumstances that they're perceiving are not allowing them to live a truly inspiring life, something that's truly fulfilling, where they can wake up every day and say, I love what I do and I do what I love, right? So, creating that life by design. And when I think about, my past, my childhood, what brought me here today, basically it's like everything. We're going to get into like the bigger things. But every part of our journey, which is quite inspiring, shapes who we are today, not just the things that are supportive to us, but also the major challenges, the traumas. Those things also shape the very things that we love today. And when I think about my life and why I'm doing this, it was based on a result of having my own extreme disconnection to what I wanted to do, to feeling the way that I love to help people feel. Is just every day I want people to wake up and love their life, anything that you're doing, right? And so that was a big challenge for me. I remember when I was a kid, I definitely had like a pretty normal childhood overall. I had entrepreneurial parents. That was definitely different. And that really helped me to see. I got to watch my dad build a business. My mom worked from home while my dad was building a business, and she had her own small company. So that was really cool too. And I got to watch my dad build like a big business. And so it was cool because it really helped shape my perspective. There's a lot of stuff sold on the market today about how easy it is to build a business, how anyone can be an entrepreneur, all this stuff about helping you to be an overnight success. But that's not what I saw when I grew up. What I saw was the time, the energy, and the challenges that come along with it as your business starts to grow, the different complexities. People judge a lot of business owners who own big businesses who they're like, they're getting sued. They must be a crappy person. Once you're a big business, you become a target. Sure, they probably mess up here and there, but I mean, any big business you look at has multiple lawsuits going on a regular basis. So it really just helped to clear these illusions, right, of what business looked like. So by the time I jumped into it, I was like, okay, it's hard, but you just do it, right? And that was all I learned. You just do it. That's it. It's hard and you just do it. So that was a really great lesson. And definitely I wasn't enjoying school. And the funny thing is present day, I love learning. Right before I got on this call, I'm in online school by choice now. I'm taking classes that I love to take. I'm taking another course from a different teacher this weekend. This past weekend, I was at a different course with like another teacher. So it's not that I don't love learning. It's just how the learning was applied in a college setting or the high school setting didn't really align with my purpose. And so basically it really disconnected me from school. So I just got straight into work. Like that was me, out of high school, straight to work. So that really also shaped my life. And then one huge component as well is I went through a past perceived like traumatic experience. And I say perceived because I'm a human behavior specialist. I've had the opportunity to clear this and work through it. But it was a sexual experience when I was a kid with my best friend's dad. And back then I would have called it rape, but it's hard for me to use that word as I really am grateful for the experience now, just based on the work that I've done, and I wouldn't actually change it. And what it helped me to do was start to seek solutions to really understand who we are, why we do what we do, and get so fine-tuned and detailed just because like for so long, the perceived trauma around it was so impactful that I didn't understand. I was like, what's wrong with me? So it just spiraled me into it. So when we think about life, it's like, those are just a couple examples of my life and how it shaped me. But there are things that are not only supportive that you learn from, but there are the things that basically have been quite challenging that have given me the career and the thing that I love the most as well today. So super grateful. Yeah.
How
Yeah.
did you I mean, I have like a couple things.
Okay.
The first thing was when you talked about like the businesses. The first thing that came to my mind was that story about somebody suing McDonald's for like spilling hot coffee on them. Have you heard of that one?
Yeah. And this is the
They like
thing,
spilled
like,
hot coffee and then
yeah,
like it was like $1 million lawsuit.
they genuinely, this is
Did you hear that one?
lessons. Yeah. This is lessons learned from businesses. They genuinely were overheating their coffee. And that was
Mm.
part of their process. And so when she spilled, like everyone spills hot stuff on them, but because they were overheating her coffee, she got third-degree burns. And
Oh
so
damn.
totally. And so it was like, it's fascinating because these are lessons learned from a company. You never would think if I overheat my coffee, someone could spill it, get third-degree burns. Someone probably thought it, but someone probably ignored them. And then this is part of our learning in the company. Like, where do we have
Mm.
conversations? Where do we start to foresee potential problems in the future? Who are we talking to internally? What meetings are we having to go through these things? Do our employees actually feel comfortable bringing this to the forefront, saying like, hey, I think we're overheating our coffee, right? And so it's really cool. Like, as a business, you think people kind of infatuate it and think all this easy stuff is going to occur. But then when you have all these moving parts in this giant vehicle, it's your job to try to figure out how to get them all to work together. And that's where the work comes in, right? That's where it starts to shift and
Yeah.
change.
No, yeah, I think like like that for example, like you were saying, sometimes these lawsuits can actually shine a light on a business and what they could work on, even if it was an accident. Um, and the second thing, you brought up your love of learning, and I think when it comes to the modern like school structure, I don't think it's the most beneficial when it comes to creating that spark that we often get as adults sometimes and things we find fascinating. I think like for me, for example, I completely failed ninth grade. Like I think I got like 2 or 3 credits out of like 12 credits to pass. And uh that's just how I felt about academics. Like I felt like, what's the point? Like I don't like learning this. And I think that's something the school system could work on, is just creating like a love for learning at a young age.
Yeah, and this is part of a human behavior component, which is not something that's taught in school or to teachers, right? And it's quite inspiring because when, if teachers out there, parent, anyone who works with kids or has kids, when you understand this dynamic, what it allows you to do is to connect with your kids to help them to learn in an inspired way, right? And so, for example, if I'm a kid, right, and when I was a kid, I really loved animals, night and day, animals all day, all night, right? So if
Mm.
you sat me in a math class and helped me to see how learning math would help me understand animals, if you did that with history and
Mm.
asked, how is history going to help you understand animals, right? If you
Yeah.
can't make that link for me, I'm going to sit there and I'm going to zone out and I'm going to disconnect until we get to what was one of my favorite subjects, science. Because what is it about?
Mm.
Animals, right? So I really excelled in
Yeah.
science. Yeah. I loved reading. So English was really inspiring for me just because and by the way, it wasn't English like as soon as we got beyond like the reading component. I love reading because I love traveling and it could take me to different places. But as soon as we
Mm.
got to all the adjunctives and subjective stuff and all that, I started failing. But my teachers would allow me to pursue and do, some of my teachers, this one English teacher, he was excellent in ninth grade. I was reading college level books in ninth grade because I loved reading so much. So he allowed me to read the
Mm.
college level books. He says, you can't, he goes, for some reason, you're not great when I teach you how they're doing and writing the way that they're writing. He's like, but you fully understand it when you're reading. He said, so I'm going to give you some different assignments as extra credit to make up for all these tests you're failing. And I was like, great. So I got a good grade in that class solely because someone paid attention and said, she's not stupid, but let's see how we can get her like aligned, because she's working hard, she's doing extracurricular activities anyways. So if you understand what is important to a kid, you can actually instill in them like, hey, this is how this class serves you, this is going to help you in this way. And it's funny because I think it's starting to get better. I was just talking to a client, and this was really inspiring to hear, right? Like geometry, you think about geometry and they say things like, there's a train and point A, point B, and 5 people here and 5 people there and X amount of miles, and when will the train get to point C? And I'm like, I don't care about this. Like the trains that I go on are on schedule, on time. I'm probably in Europe. Like I don't expect it to be missing. I don't have to guess. I just have to be here at the right time. So there's no reason in my brain to learn how to do that. But what's really fascinating is like her daughter is an artist, and she's I think she's in 10th grade now, so she's an artist. But what's really inspiring and what they've done is there's 2 options. There's regular geometry and geometry for architects. And so here you have an artist about to learn how to utilize geometry in her drawings. She's so stoked to take geometry right now. Yeah, and that's the thing, because there's a purpose for it now. So when we give someone a purpose for their education and learning, all of a sudden it's super inspiring. And that's why oftentimes people who do really poorly in school, they don't do poorly in education for the rest of their lives. They get out of school and then they just go study, and read everything that they love, and they become super learners.
No, that's literally what happened to me. Like I was a pothead. I hated school. And then, I don't think I really started going on this like growth mindset path until I was like halfway through my naval career, and I just had a bunch of free time to learn and pursue what I was passionate about. But yeah, then I used books as like, now I use books as like an inspiration for my content. You always have something to talk about if you like, I don't know, I feel like it's just like when you read a lot, you have, I don't know what to like call it. You just have more stuff in your brain that you can talk about. I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a variety of conversations that you can engage in. And one of the things that I noticed has been very helpful in reading and studying, right? And studying many subjects in a sense that, I don't talk about a lot of things that I'm studying on podcasts, in consultations, but at the same time, what it's really assisted me with is, when I'm interested in a topic, I study one book and then I study another book, and all of a sudden, 100 books later from people with different opposing opinions, and now a lot of biases dissipate. When we read one book, what can happen is we can take on the biases of the author, right? We take on their perceptions, a little bit of a part of their persona.
That's true.
Yeah, we subordinate to their ideas. But when we read that 100 books, all of a sudden you read one, you read another, and you're like, whoa, wait, this doesn't make sense. Then you start Googling stuff. You'll notice you'll start Googling stuff and being like, I don't understand. I thought this was this and this was that. And you Google it and you're like, whoa, that person was wrong. I didn't even know. This person's right. And then it's like, then you read another one. Yeah, and you're like, whoa, I was missing this equation. And all of a sudden you realize they're quite intelligent, but we all have our own gaps. So it's like, and I say this, my clients who do the best, right, with me, they're not only studying with me. My most successful clients, the ones that get the greatest results, are also really intelligent. They're learning, and between our sessions, like they're studying, they're reading other books, and they're integrating information in all different ways, and that's the beautiful part. Like, it's not all from one person. It never will be. It's too much information. We don't want to give that
Yeah,
up
especially
anyways.
now we're like in the information age.
It's just so
Um,
accessible. Yeah.
yeah, and I don't think a lot of people, at least like the average Joe out there, I don't think people take advantage of it. Like you could literally um, get as much information that you would if you went to like Harvard or something while not going to Harvard. You could get your own Harvard degree, but you just won't have a Harvard credential behind it. You could get all of that. Maybe not like the actual like lectures and like professors and networking, but you could still get all of that knowledge today.
The information is definitely there. It's absolutely there. I would say when I think about, I mean, I love studying and learning, and I also love mentorship. The reason why I love mentorship is it shortens the application process.
Mm,
So it's like, this is how we've taken all this information from the masters and applied it. And it's like, thanks, guys. And so that shortens the application process, gives me a little bit less to think about. So I could basically stand on their shoulders with the additional
mm-hmm.
information and like take it from there, right? And it is cool because you think there were times in our life where I would even listen to people and I'd get jealous because they tell me about books they
Mm,
had that I was like, I'll never have that book, is what I would think. Like I
mm,
had one teacher who talked about like a set of books that they got that was like $50,000, right? When they purchased it decades ago. Present day, it's a downloadable
mm,
PDF because
yeah.
someone out there wanted to share that information, and we take these rare books of information that's so inspiring and people are scanning it in, and because it's,
Mm,
there's no copyright on these books that are incredibly old. We just have access to them through like archive.org. Like that's a great place to get these books, to rent them, and basically kind of, yeah, you can check them out, like some of them as well. The ones that have no copyright, you're allowed to download the PDF versions. It's really
mm.
inspiring, So yeah, back in the day, things were quite limited, but in this age of information, we can travel around the world and get books from archives that we never would have thought we could even access, that are at the tip of our
Yeah.
fingers. Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah. I just don't think people do that, like people are just they scroll on Instagram and they scroll on TikTok and
Yeah. And
get caught up. Yeah.
totally. But here's the thing, too. It's like, even when you're scrolling, we scroll, but we slow down on things that are very important
Mm,
to us, right? And like for me, I love architecture, I love art, I love fashion. So I may go and scroll Instagram, but when I see a house, gosh, there's some stuff I follow. And when I see a house that just, I'm like, this blows my mind. I actually forward it to myself. I forward it to my email, right? The next
mm,
day, I go online, I find that house, I research the house, I research the architect. And so it's like, give yourself permission to follow the thread of basically your soul. You're looking at these things
mm,
because they're interesting to you. If you're on and you're looking at fitness stuff because that's interesting to you, follow the thread. If I see something cool about health, I follow the thread. Again, I mean, I'm scrolling in those moments. That's why I forward it to my email, because I'm like, I'm not going to research it right now. I forward it to my email.
yeah.
I look at it the next day. And sometimes I can't remember what her name is, but I found this lady and I listened to like a 45-minute health talk on her on YouTube. And I was like, this woman's great. I can't remember her name because I just found her, but I was like, she's amazing. I am 100% going to listen to more of this. And what did I find it off?
Mm,
Something on Instagram. And sometimes the thread doesn't lead anywhere where you want to continue and move forward, but there are some that are so inspiring. It's like, don't judge yourself for scrolling. The more you judge yourself, the less you're going to actually like move forward and be like, this inspires me. I want more.
I just get like I think you have to be aware of that though, because you can mindlessly doom scroll, and there's been times where I like would end up on cat rescue videos, and I'm like, how did I end up here? But those videos are actually like really heartwarming if you
Yeah.
ever watch them. Like some of them, they they're like in random areas of the world, but they'll be like half dead kittens, like
Mm.
bones sticking out, or like just anorexic, like not breathing. And then in a little video, 20-minute video though, by the end of it, they're like, months have passed and they're like healthy and alive. I don't know. That's where
Well,
the threads take me sometimes.
and that's the thing too, is like, is it a waste of
Yeah.
time, or was there something inside you in that moment that wanted to watch something come back to life? That wanted to believe in a possibility and see the possibilities. And we are so intentional. It's insane. Like the intentionality behind who we are, even the things that we judge. People will be like, I overeat, right? I was like, why do you
Mm.
overeat? And it's funny because it's,
Mm.
if you actually, instead of judging yourself, if you see what the benefits are for your overeating in that moment, maybe you're with friends. These are the ones that I get the most, right? Friends and family, and don't want to let them down, right? Fears from some sort of past circumstance where they got overpowered. So being big and heavy makes them feel safe, right? That's also a natural
Mm.
one. They don't know how to get energy in another form. And when they're needing energy, they use food to keep them going and keep them awake because they have a lot to do. They don't know how to manage stress. And so they have food. And so it's like, what I'm saying right now, the more benefits I give, the more you're going to be like, I'm not overeating. This is just the tool that I have because I don't have an alternative tool,
I
right?
overeat sometimes
It's like,
because
yeah.
I'll like fast, because I like naturally fast, and then I just get super freaking hungry, um, like mid afternoon, like around this time.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll just eat until I'm like full, like, and then I'll get the itis, and I'm like, why did I eat so much? And then I just get lethargic, and then yeah.
Yeah. And that's the thing too. It's like noticing our patterns of behavior, right?
Mm.
And I had a similar pattern, which I find, I was like, what is going on? I was like,
Because then
normally,
you get tired, because
yeah,
then your body just had a big meal,
it had a big
you
meal.
know.
And when I figured out what was going on, I just took up a boxing class. And what I didn't realize is the quantity of calories I was burning is not what I was accustomed to in my normal like yoga routine, right? And so
Mm.
my normal breakfast, which is just a smoothie after yoga, is not enough after boxing. And so what would wind up happening is like you, I felt like I was fasting. And then all of a sudden I get to a point I was like, why am I so starving? And then I'd overeat and then I'd be lethargic. And so now I had boxing today, and instead of a smoothie, I was like breakfast burrito. And I'm
Mm.
fine. And I'm actually totally fine because I've
Yeah.
accommodated. So it's like if we judge ourselves for the overeating, what winds up happening if we're judging ourselves in anything is we're not asking the question why. You cannot transform your behaviors in judgment because you keep focusing on what's wrong with you and trying to fix it instead of asking the quality questions, which is that mindset component that allows you to understand the why you're doing it and find an alternative solution.
Hmm. So how do we even start to ask those questions?
How does it benefit you is one of the greatest questions. So
Okay.
yeah, whenever we're doing something, if you're watching Instagram, if you're scrolling YouTube, if you're on Netflix, if you're doing anything, these are just the things that most people judge. Overeating,
Mm.
right? You're procrastinating. Ask yourself the question, like, how does it benefit you? How does it benefit you? How does it benefit you? Until you're
Mm.
grateful. When you become grateful for what you're doing, you realize that you're not this like purposeless waste of space. Like that's how you treat yourself when you're like, I shouldn't do this, I shouldn't do that, I'm a bad person for doing this, I need
Like
to fix.
shameful.
So
Yeah.
shameful. It's just super shame on yourself. But when you ask those questions, you all of a sudden become grateful. And then sometimes, and even procrastination, one of the things I love to ask with procrastination is, okay, you weren't doing that. Well, what were you doing? Because I know that you procrastinate on things that aren't important to you and that you
Uh,
invested your time in what was truly important
yeah.
to you. And then it's like, well, how did that benefit you? To
Well,
focus on
no,
something you
sometimes I catch
love.
myself. Sometimes I catch myself, like, when I know I got stuff to do, and then I'll be like, wait a minute, why am I doing all this? Like, And then that's like, I realize that's a form of procrastination. But sometimes, like, for example, I'll just start tidying up and cleaning. Uh, and sometimes I'm like, man, this is taking too long. And that's when I get that awareness, like, oh, wait, am I procrastinating? But then it's like,
Mm-hmm.
um, I don't like having a untidy space too. So it's just, but then it's like tedious and it's, I don't know.
And this is the fact, is the procrastination comes in because something else
Mm,
is a higher priority. I'm similar. I don't love having like an untidy space, but there are
mm-hmm.
times when I have a choice. I can either focus on cleaning my space or I can focus on what's truly important to me, which is the learning, the business, the
Or
clients,
the work, yeah.
sometimes just getting outside, my highest priorities, right? And some people, and there's gonna be some people who listen to this and they're like, I don't procrastinate on cleaning, because there's something in cleaning for you that's more purposeful than for me, and that's amazing,
Mm,
you know. And it's different for every person, but for those of you who procrastinate on that, it's like, I'll sit and I'll look around sometimes and I'll giggle and I'll be like, okay, it went too far. I'm like, I'll look at my house and I'm like,
oh,
stuff went too far. I'm like, okay, it's time to just like, I'm like, just like an hour car and just like figure this out for like an hour, right? But
yeah.
it's not to judge myself and say that I should have done it faster, because had I done all those things that I should, in my perception, the shoulds, right? The shoulds, I have to, need to have done instead, I wouldn't have been focused on what I truly love. And this is where I say, like, if you want to
Yeah.
wake up every day feeling fulfilled and inspired, wake up every day designing yourself, like your life, around things that you love. I haven't I've done grocery shopping. Done. I love Instacart. I don't want to go to a grocery store. I'm not a chef. A chef wants to go to a grocery store. Someone, even if you're not a professional chef, right? Even if you just love it and it's something that's really important to you, you want to go to the grocery store. You want to touch the fruit and vegetables. You want to pick it out yourself. I don't. I genuinely don't. I never want to go to a grocery store again if I don't have to, right? So it's like, just
Oh, yeah, it's bad out
delegate.
here.
You
It's
delegate the
bad out here.
things. Yeah. You want to
So
delegate the
how do
things that
we,
aren't important.
okay, so we delegate, but how do we let go of that judgment that we always have?
Yeah.
How do we start letting go of that judgment and that shameful feeling?
Yeah. There's two types of judgments. Okay. So there's
Okay.
shame and guilt. We have the resentments, but we also have infatuations. And here's the catch, because in society, we're only taught to focus on our shames and guilts. That's it. What we don't realize is that if you only focus on that, you're going to increase the probability of you puffing yourself up and having too much pride or infatuation on the outside. That's the other second type of judgment, which actually impacts you. And so, what happens with pride, right, is we call it the pride before the fall. If you get too puffed up, if you get too proud, if right, we know this,
Yeah.
then we
Yeah.
start to get criticized by the outside world.
Like ego.
Total, like, over super ego. Ego's necessary, but when we get
Mm,
super ego, right? And it's when that
mm.
happens that you're going to get criticized and you're going to get knocked down, because it's the outside world humbling you. If you're really into fitness and you work out, this is a really fun one to see.
Yeah.
Injury from within. Yeah.
Uh,
You'll notice that when you've had injuries, there's some part of you that's pretty puffed up in that moment, right? We get really
that's
puffed
kind
up.
of crazy because, yeah, because I always tell people I've like never injured myself bodybuilding, and I've been
Yeah.
bodybuilding since uh, I was 15.
Mm-hmm.
I'm 29 now, so almost 15 years of
Yeah.
bodybuilding, and I think like the most I've ever done was like almost like pull something or overextend something.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that's good to notice.
It's really cool. And even those moments where you like pull or overextend, if you go back and say, what was I just thinking? You'll notice that there's a judgment in your head, and you're probably most likely in those moments puffed up about something. And it could even be your workout routine, right? I remember I used to fall all the time, all the time. I don't fall anymore. I was known as like a klutz to some of my nieces. And if I go back to those moments when I used to fall, I used to be incredibly proud about what I was wearing and the shoes that I was wearing in particular, and that I could walk in heels all the time. And I was falling all the time.
Mm.
But in exactly right before those moments that I would fall, I was all puffed up with how I looked. I was all
Mm.
puffed up at who I was, and I thought I was better than other people. It's
It's kind of like
amazing. The pride before
it's kind of
literally the
like
fall.
have you ever yeah, you ever see like those like videos where they're like in a race or like a marathon? It reminds me of the tortoise and the hare story, like where the tortoise or the hare is super egotistical and like I'm already gonna win, like I got this, and then it reminds me of that.
Absolutely. That's a great it's funny because I love that story and how they like kind of put it into place with just that simple childhood
Yeah.
story. But yeah, the tortoise, right? The tortoise is just humble, doing his thing in the moment, present, winds up winning the race. The hare is like, that's the pride. Like, I'm the best. I'm going to win. I don't even have to worry about it. I'm so good.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Like I can
that's
take a break. I can.
yeah, exactly. We don't want that level of pride. We just want confidence and certainty in ourselves. Like
Mm.
just self-worth is enough. The tortoise had the self-worth. And he won.
So, so how do we, I guess, become aware of that? Like, what is like the main question, I guess, to become aware of those judgments and infatuations and
Yeah.
pride? Like, how do we even become aware of it, I
Yeah,
guess?
it this is amazing because the world is set up to give us feedback. Our bodies are set up to give us
Mm.
feedback about these different components. It's quite fascinating. And for example, like our body, any injuries we have, any illnesses we have, injury. It's literally in jury, right? Injury from within, judgment. So it's quite fascinating. Like,
Mm.
yeah, our physical body gives us feedback. Our like societal,
Injury. That's
yeah, right? It's actually like
I
the
never
word.
thought of it like that.
I know you look at it and you're
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, it's right in front of my face. Yeah. And then even the feedback from society, from individuals that we connect with, if you're consistently, and this is a great example, like let's say you're at work and, or you're working all day and you can even work from home, whatever you're doing. And all of a sudden your husband or wife comes home and they just go at you and they criticize you and they're pushing you, right? And you're like, I don't understand what's happening. What's happening is something or some one thing or many things that you've done during the day, you're puffed up on. You're proud like the hare, right? So you're coming
Mm.
home to criticism to balance you back out. And criticism actually won't impact you if you're not puffed up and proud about that particular thing or proud about yourself, right? This is really cool. I love this as a feedback because if I get criticized and I feel wounded by it, I think to myself, wow, there's something in this right now that I haven't worked through yet. And then it's really cool
Mm.
because I'll get the criticism about the same thing later and then like 5 minutes later, I'm like, oh my gosh, I did it. I worked through it. I didn't even notice I got criticized. I just like moved on like a normal conversation. So criticism
Mm.
and how we react and respond is a great indicator of when we're like puffed up about something, right?
Well, what about so something happened to me this past weekend online where I did get criticized for a post I made. Like I was trying something new on YouTube. I did like a reaction video to a funny military clip because I was in the military. So I did like a veteran reacts funny clip video. And this guy, like one of the first comments was like, "There's nothing I hate more than uh, somebody who like uses clips from other people." And
Okay.
I guess that it's like a meme called like green screen reacts meme or something. I had no idea what he was talking about, but that was like the first comment, and that was like a form of criticism. And my first initial feelings were just like, what is wrong with this person? But then I also kind of felt hurt. Like, wait, I'm just trying something
Perfect.
new here, just trying to make content. And then I was confused because I didn't even know what he was talking about. So,
This is a
what
really
are your
cool
thoughts?
example. Like a really cool example. Thank you. Because
Yeah.
basically, can you see that you had
Yeah.
pride around creating something new? That you were proud.
Mm.
That was
Yeah,
where the
yeah.
Yeah, that's it. And
Okay.
so the criticism comes in and it just humbles us. And what's funny is like now that you know this, when you create something new
Mm,
again, you'll probably get a little
mm,
pride. We all have pride, we all have shame. You can't avoid it. We just work to balance it so it doesn't impact us emotionally. But like the next time you get a criticism, I guarantee you'll think to yourself, was I proud? And then you'll probably giggle a little
mm.
bit and be like, yeah, no wonder that person's criticizing me right now. And you're like, all right, thank you, universe. Like, I got this.
It's
And
like karma,
yeah,
kind of.
kind of. And
Yeah.
the dynamic of it is we can actually tackle this on our own. So whenever we
Mm,
find ourselves proud, what is a great thing to notice is before we get the feedback from our outside world, if we have more benefits than drawbacks, if we perceive something that we do as more positive than negative, we're puffed up on ourselves. Everything we do,
mm,
everything in the universe comes with an equal amount of challenge and support. And we see this in the public eye the most, right? Is that half the world is going to love a particular person and half the
mm,
world hates them. Now,
mm,
what does that mean the person's good or bad? It's only good or
mm,
bad according to the society and their beliefs, right? So,
mm,
depending on society and their beliefs will depend on your label of good or bad. This conversation that we're having is labeled as good for individuals probably who love entrepreneurship, personal development, mindset, but it could be
mm,
labeled as bad to any individual who perceives that engaging in this type of conversation, thinking like this is a waste of time,
mm,
energy, like you shouldn't be doing this, like kind of stuff, right? They're going to label us as bad and we'll get critical feedback from them, right? So this is a quite interesting concept. If I get off this call and I'm puffed up
mm.
by what I said and I think everything was good and it only has an amazing impact, then what's going
Yeah.
to happen? Probably my husband. Like it's our partners
Really?
that humble us the most. Love and
Mm,
appreciate them for that, by the way. I'll get on the phone with my husband and he'll criticize me most likely, and trust me, this has happened many a times, and he'll criticize me to humble me and bring me back down to size, right? And that if I'm not actually looking at how this information is really supportive but also challenging than before, and I humble myself, someone else is going to humble me. And I can ask those questions where I say, well, how is this information challenging? You know, it's great information. And here's what I know. It's great information. People are going to get insights. People are going to get aha moments. But a lot of what I'm saying is incredibly difficult to apply, right? So I'm also, to
mm,
the degree that I'm making people less confused, I'm equally bringing confusion. And when I think about that, it's humbling. And it's like, wow, I'm challenging and supporting people to the same degree. Now my husband doesn't have to criticize me because I've already taken
mm,
myself off a pedestal. I don't have pride. I don't have shame. Shame's an interesting one too, because if I get off this call and I say, I did the worst job ever, I
mm,
should have done better, I should have explained the theories better, and I'm just putting myself down, then you get on the call with my husband and he starts to pump me up. If you guys pay attention to this, your mind is going to get blown, right? Like I'm telling you, you're going to be
yeah.
like, what the heck is
Wait,
coordinating this?
but do you think like do you think that's just like the universe? There's always um some sort of feedback uh when we're feeling these feelings of guilt, pride, shame,
Yeah.
judgment? Do you think we do you think it's like inevitable? Like we're just gonna
Yeah.
somehow, some way get some feedback or where it just like opens our mind or eyes?
Yeah, so I've been doing this for over 11 years with just thousands upon thousands of hours of showing people the feedback, the coordinated
Mm-hmm.
feedback that's helping them come back into balance. What's amazing
Mm-hmm.
is when you see it, it actually calms you down. Because what's funny is our pride, our shames, they come in also when there's a level of us feeling out of control. And when you see that everything's in order, you relax, right? You'll relax. You'll actually
Mm-hmm.
relax. So if you start to pay attention to when criticism comes in and you're impacted by it, it's be like, well, where am I kind of puffed up right now? Where am I proud? And you'll be like, whoa, that makes sense. And when you start to see yourself getting praised and someone come in and be like, you're a great person, this or that, and be like, whoa, where am I putting myself down right now? Where do I feel guilt and shame? And you'll be like, wow, I have been hard on myself. You're going to be amazed at what's going on outside you. And then the greater question after you see this, you're going to start being like, what is coordinating this? You know, because that
Mm-hmm.
question I cannot answer. I do not know what is coordinating any of this. But when you see it, it's like you get a glimpse of the magnificence of our universe. And that in itself is phenomenally humbling. And just that glimpse changes your life because it is. You're like, what is going on? What is
I
coordinating
think I
this?
just get reminded of
Yeah.
I get reminded of like the yin and yang and like the balance of the universe.
Yes.
Uh, and also like the gray too. Like,
Yeah.
there's the black and the white, but then there's also the gray. I think this feedback might be in the gray.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Absolutely. That yin and yang that we see, that symbol, you're accurate. It's the balance of the universe, Everything has both sides. I love business and entrepreneurship because, and I know you know this, it forces you to face both sides. You can't just live in a one-sided world if you own a business. You can't. You can't just be a nice person all the time. You embrace all parts of yourself. You embrace both hero and villain to get the job done to move forward. And that's what I love about entrepreneurship is that there's a part of it that forces you to be authentically all of who you are and gain a greater love and appreciation for it. It also happens in parenting. Parents are, I mean, this is something that you see all the time. Like as a parent, you want to be the hero, but then you realize if you're not the villain, your kid's going to turn into like some crazy kid who does whatever it wants,
Yeah,
whenever it wants,
that's
kicking
literally,
people in
yeah.
public, right? Like doing
No,
crazy
yeah.
stuff. You're hero
There's
villain.
a delicate balance. Are you a parent? Or
No, I work with a lot of
okay.
parents, and I will be a parent soon. Probably not. I'm not pregnant, but obviously planning it with my husband.
Oh, you're planning it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have twins,
Oh
and
gosh, that's work. My sister has twins.
yeah, and I'm a single father as well.
That's
So
work. Yeah.
it's just it's like trying to set a foundation for them, but then also teaching them like love and compassion and yeah, it's exactly that. Like you want to be their hero, but then you also want to be like their friend and have fun with them. But then you
Yeah.
also have to realize you're the parent and you have to keep them on a leash sometimes and you
Yes.
know
And it's
so
true because you can see if you're not the villain, then what's going to happen to your kids? You see it sometimes. You're like, if I don't do this right now, like they could be in danger, like genuinely in
mm,
danger. And so it's loving and appreciating ourselves for being the villain and knowing that it's not actually a villain, it's just the necessary part to help yourself and others move forward. That all those parts are
mm,
worthy of love and 100% necessary. 100%. Yeah.
I did want to because we kind of like just have been moving along here. uh um you when you were talking about your story and you said this happened to you, you had sexual trauma,
Yeah.
and you said what helped you grow through that is you seen it as perceived trauma, where like what is
Yeah.
this, yeah, what is like that
Mm-hmm.
mindset? Because I mean, I've
Mm-hmm.
had traumatic experiences in the past as well, so how do you
Yeah.
like, I guess, switch that?
Yeah. Yeah, and I'll share some of the personal components on this as well, which, by the way, this is where I become hero and villain for some people. Some people don't like to hear this because it sounds kind of intense, but at the same time, I'm grateful for my experience. So it is what it is. I love being grateful. And then other people, if you get some insights on what I'm sharing, I want you to remember it's not to judge yourself. It's to realize that what I'm sharing is actually quite normal. And a lot of people don't admit it because they feel guilt or shame perceiving their actual involvement in it as well, right? So this is quite common for individuals. So, like for me, there's a dynamic where, yes, it was an adult who I was with, and I was about 7.5 years old. And so, yeah, there is a certain level of responsibility. Like, this is an adult, like, you know better, right? Like, this is not who you
Mm-hmm.
engage with. And so, there's that dynamic. But then there's also the dynamic as a kid, I was infatuated with and had all this pride around relationships, romantic relationships. I was so infatuated with romantic relationships. I remember wanting to be with like in one, right? And what's insane is at first, after I cleared the trauma around it and I saw how it served me, how the pain served me, how it helped me like to grow into who I am today. Why was it important for me to go through it in that moment, right? When I did so many questions so many times that I started to see, oh my gosh, like this was actually purposeful for me. And then when I cleared the trauma and it wasn't scary anymore, all of a sudden it hit me and I was like, oh my gosh, like I actually remember being flirtatious with this man, right? And I was like, and I hadn't told anyone it happened. I didn't tell my family, I didn't tell friends. I kept it to myself for decades, 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 decades. And then I blocked it out. And I blocked it out because I felt so guilty because I was flirting with him as well. And I remember standing
Mm.
there. I can go to the moment where I'm standing there as a kid and I'm like shyly like putting my head down and flirting. And I'm doing this. And this is when I say infatuations and pride are just as impactful as shame. This is what I'm talking about. I was so infatuated with relationships and I only had seen one side as a kid that I, in that moment, was consciously trying to engage in a relationship with an adult. What wound up happening is I got so humbled by that experience because it turned into something I didn't expect that, and this is what I'm really grateful for. Like it gave me my childhood back. Like here I was as a kid
Mm.
trying to grow up so fast. Like I was trying to grow up so fast. And then this human reminded me like that being a kid was perfect. And I remember that moment after, it makes me want to cry right now. Like gratitude, inspiration, like he gave me my childhood back. He brought me back home into myself and I stopped focusing on trying to be in a relationship, which I was doing everywhere, and I started focusing on what I loved. This human being actually got me on back onto my life purpose and on track. It was quite amazing. And I see how it spirals step by step later on, where every time there was an opportunity to engage in kind of the popularity and being in partnership, if you talk to my friends when I was growing up, they're like, Carly was just that like weird nerd who was super authentic and somehow made it in with the cool crowd just because we liked her because she was herself. He gave me permission to
Mm.
do that. He gave me
Did
that
you
through that
realize that,
challenge.
like, did you realize that then or as an
No.
adult?
I realized that when I finally learned a way to ask these questions to actually go
Okay.
back and look. Yeah. So if you haven't seen it yet, this is where I'm saying if you haven't seen it yet, don't have unrealistic expectations on yourself.
Yeah.
It's there for everyone to see. And we all have traumatic experiences that we go through, everyone. And some of us have ones that we label as more traumatic, right? Because it's how society labels trauma. But for example, if you have a really high value on health, you just told me that you've been bodybuilding since you were 15. I know you have a high value on health. Oh my gosh, it's obvious, right? It's purposeful to
Yeah.
you. If when you were 20 years
Yeah.
old, if you lost an arm, that would be traumatic. If you got an injury that still impacted you today, that would be traumatic. trauma will be impactful and something will be perceived as trauma to you depending on the level of how it impacts your life purpose. That's what
So what
perceived
about
trauma is.
oh yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Because it would be different for the person that was born without any arms, that never bodybuilded,
They don't care.
you know?
Yeah.
Um, so what about like, because you said you finally became grateful and kind of like just learned to embrace that part of your growth and story. What about like the people that just, they truly feel like victims and like they felt like they had nothing to do with it? It was just a like fate just gave them the worst of
Yeah.
things to deal with.
When we think that fate gave us the worst of something to deal with, we haven't seen how it supported us on our journey. And this is where like life, right? You're still alive today. No matter every hard thing you've gone through, the hardest thing you've gone through, you've overcome. Because today you're sitting here on the other side, right? So no matter what you tell me, I know that you got there. I know that you got to the other side and you're not thinking about it every second of every day, which means that there's a level of something that you've overcome. And there's only certain components that are still ruminating and have yet to be cleared. So first I want people to realize that, right? It's not all encompassing your life. It's not all victim. There's moments where that occurs, which means that some of it is still really challenging you, right? And when we go back and like I said, like it took me quite some time to figure out a way to overcome this and like find the tools and to be able to ask the questions to get a tear of inspiration. But when you see that it served a purpose in your life, right, to such a great degree that you don't want to go back, you don't want to change it, what happens is you become grateful for having that experience. And this is cool because when I work with people on this, whether it be in our workshops or in one-on-one, what they say after is like, I'll say, well, how do you feel now? And they're like, I feel really light. Like, I feel like this heaviness like has just been lifted off my body, because there's a heaviness of the energy. We're weighed down by this feeling of like, oh, the trauma, it weighs us down. When I say it's worth getting rid of the trauma, it's not because I'm like, you have to, you should, you need to. Like, it's for you. It's for you more than it is for me. If I meet you and you come to a workshop and you decide you don't want to do the work and don't get over your trauma, my life goes on day by day and I still feel the way I feel because I'm going to focus on me. But what I know for you is like, I want you to feel that. I want you to feel that weight, that heaviness lift off. It's like you can breathe again. Your life opens up again. And then every day that you live, all those little tiny pieces that used to trigger you or remind you of the trauma are gone. And it's like you can live in normal life again. And I know people who have gone through trauma understand what I'm saying, because it's like when you have that past perceived trauma that you've gone through, anything that reminds you of it, it's like it owns us, you know, and you feel it because all of a sudden you get emotional, you get scared, you feel like the victim in that moment. And for good reason, you haven't cleared it yet. You know, you're not sitting there like playing the victim on purpose. You just don't know how to clear it. I'll make that clear. You don't know how to clear it and you haven't been able to do it yet. And then it happens in that moment and it feels scary and your nervous system gets on fire. And so when you clear it, all of that goes away and you can encounter the same past triggers and nothing occurs. It's freeing for yourself.
So
like it's more for you.
Is clearing it a different process for everybody, or is there like a similar tools and methods we could use to clear it?
I've shared like some of the questions and stuff just in this conversation, but in the workshops that I teach with my husband, like we take people through a process, right? And we take them through the first one, we take them through 13 questions. We're going to understand your purpose to a greater degree. Then we take you through 14 questions. And those 14 questions it takes us about 15 hours to go through these questions. But at the end of the process, like if you do the work, I can guarantee you'll release your trauma. If you don't do the work, you're not going to get the result. It's fine. But if you do the work, like, I guarantee you'll get through it, right? And that's why we do these things live and stuff, because we want to make sure people get through it. But for example, like the last one, we had a couple going through a divorce on it. The husband had already gone through the process. Before he had gone through this process, he didn't want to talk to his wife, hated her, was ready to just like destroy her in court, right? Goes through the process, and now loves and appreciates her. He's genuinely concerned about her through the transition and paid for her to come through the workshop. And again, she didn't want to talk to him. She hated him. I'm actually surprised she showed up because he was there that same weekend. And at the end of it, they're both in tears of gratitude, talking to each other, telling each other they appreciate each other, and coming up with a strategy to be friends as they go through the divorce. So when I tell you, you can overcome anything, like, I promise you, it's possible. If you do the work that, like, you know, if you do the work with us, like we asked, I promise you, you can overcome it. And then that weight, it's like the inner peace, the inner turmoil dissipates.
I actually went through a similar story.
Yeah.
With my ex, going through a divorce. Like, I was traumatized from that whole, like, infidelity and, like, alcohol abuse. And there was just a point where I don't know, I guess I was starting to clear it out. And it was exactly like how you were saying, like, I started to become grateful because I learned more about myself and, like, the standards and how I can show up in the future. And I just learned so much through that. Even though it was, like, traumatic, I went through pretty much like that same story that you just told about the couple.
Yeah. And this is the thing. It's like, you just said it right there. You see that it's on the way to your life purpose because you just said it. I learned so much that I'm grateful. So even though it was challenging, you were learning so much, and that education you got, it's like, that makes the challenge inspiring. And what's funny is, like, if you can look at all the challenges in your life and see what you haven't seen yet, which is what's inspiring behind it, and that's what you got out of it, what you learned in your own way, what you got out of it in your own way, guess what you feel? You feel grateful. You don't feel mad at the other person. You're not, like, bitter or angry. You could treat them like a normal human being. They're in your life or they're not in your life. It doesn't really matter. But for you, you're not burdened by anger anymore. You're not burdened by frustration, sadness. You know, it's our burden that we carry when we carry those emotions. It doesn't impact the other person at all. They're not even around.
Well, and then I mean, you get to the point where you get tired. Like, you're just, like, tired all the time. Yeah, it's like when you start to let go of that, you get more energy back. It's like it's exhausting being, like, holding grudges and, like,
so tiring,
being angry all the time. It's like, you have to start letting go of that energy, man, to really start living life again.
I think that's what we forget, like, because we are humans. We'll feel so slighted, you know, we'll feel so hurt, so harmed, that we want to be angry. And if you're not noticing, everyone has it. If you're not noticing the heaviness and the drain that comes with it, you hold on to that anger until all of a sudden you break down and it becomes too much, right? And it's like, and this is part of the personal development, the mindset, empowering our mindset component. Instead of waiting for your body to exhaust itself, your brain to exhaust itself by holding on to this, it's like, you catch it early on and work through it more strategically so it doesn't have to get to that point. Because again, no matter how pissed off you are at someone, no matter what they did to you, they're probably not around, which means that your anger hurts no one else but yourself. You know, your frustration, it's like no one else it impacts but your own physical body. They don't even know, man. They're just living their life.
For real. Some people, like, just move on, or, like, I guess, like, in a more modern context, people who get ghosted and they're like, they're like, oh, they still follow them, and they're like, oh, they it looks like they moved on like super fast, and
Yeah.
meanwhile you're like over here still trying to process it.
That's the thing. It's just not, it's not worth it. And it's funny because sometimes we'll try to get something out of our lives and we'll be like, well, I don't want to deal with it anymore. So that person's not in my life. So I never have to deal with it again. But you're still angry with them. You're still frustrated. You still have that grudge, that resentment you're holding, which means that you are still dealing with them. Every time you have a thought, they take up, I call it valuable real estate in the mind, and they do not pay rent. You are allowing them to be in there and not pay rent. They're using up your brain. And then the other dynamic is you can't get rid of anything. You can't. Anything that you've tried to get rid of, I would love for you to go look and see where it comes up in a different form. And what'll happen is it's the law of the one to the many and the many to the one. So you'll have it in the one person. You'll have an angry, let's say you have an angry partner. You have the anger come in one person, and then that partner dissipates, and then it dissipates into the many, right? And it's really quite interesting because you'll see, oh my gosh, it's not gone. Now there's clients that are angry. There's people commenting on your YouTube that's angry. I went to the grocery store. This person's angry. I'm getting like road rage people that are angry. And you're like, anger is actually everywhere in my life. It just changed form from the one to the many. Right? That's it. That's all that's occurring. And so if we keep running from these things instead of empowering ourselves to see how it serves us, every person that instigates that same thing will impact us. It's like a trigger and that's where anxiety comes from. It's the anxiety reaction. Too much trauma from one thing, you'll get it in a small form somewhere else and get anxious. Right? So that's why when I say it's like really important to clear our emotions and our charges, it's for you. It's 100% for you. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to. Oh man, yeah, I always tell this story, but you have to learn things the hard way sometimes, and you have to allow yourself to express your emotions, even as a man, you know, because that could be seen as weak, I guess, sometimes.
Yeah.
For men to
Perceptions,
cry,
right?
or yep.
Yeah. It's just
So
someone's perception. It's not good or bad until someone put a label on it. In my perception, people are human. Like, you're gonna cry. You're gonna have an emotion. When I see, sometimes I'll see like a guy and they'll be like, I'm sorry, I'm crying. I'm like, it'd be weird if you didn't right now. Just straight up. Like, this is real rough. You know? So it's, yeah, just realize,
Sure.
I mean, guys cry in my consults all the time, and sometimes they will apologize, but that's it. It's the perception that it's wrong or bad or weak, where I'm sitting here and I'm an expert in human behavior. And I'm like, it'd be weird for you not to have emotion around this right now. I recognize that you're here so we could clear through that emotion and you don't want to cry anymore. But until we work on it, it's weird for you not to have an emotion. Like, this is impactful.
Like,
So
you
it,
should be crying.
yeah, if you're not crying, I'm like, what are you
Then
disconnected
it'd
from?
be, yeah, it's like you're
Yeah.
like holding off something, or holding on to
Yeah,
something.
let's connect to it. Let's and see what really bothers you about it so that we can just get to the crux of it, get to the root, clear it and move on. Yeah.
So I have one more question, and then I'm gonna move on to my final segment. But the first question is, it's kind of a two-part question. How can we show up more authentically in our like everyday lives, and in like professional settings?
Absolutely. Yeah. This one, I share this all the time and I keep sharing it over and over again because I just want to cement this in people's brains. This is one of the most helpful tools I've ever uncovered for myself is when I hear myself say, I need to, I should, I have to, I'm supposed to, I've got to, I ought to, right? Those are imperative languages that are actually not authentic to me. Because I don't actually take, you'll notice this, you don't take actions on your shoulds naturally. You take action on the things you would love to do, you choose to do, you desire to do, and you want to do. You wake up every day and you do those. Why? Because those are authentically aligned with what inspires you most. So if I hear myself say, I would love to do this, I am like, yeah, for sure. Go time on that thing. If I say I should do this or I need to do this, I check in and I think, I'll ask myself this question. I'm like, according to who? Right? And then one person will pop in my head, and that's the person that I've put on a pedestal. I, in some way or shape or form, have perceived that their opinion and their view is better than mine. And then I do some personal development work to clear that and then reflect myself, like, what would I really love to do? So authenticity is really helpful to embrace when you're noticing your language. And it's like when those shoulds come up, it's like, according to who? Now, sometimes we will subordinate to those shoulds, and there's benefits to it, right? Like, for example, if you have a should, like, I remember when I subordinated to one of my mentors on shoulds with finances, right? And I was like, I should save, I should invest, right? And I should do these things according to this mentor. And I remember thinking, I'm subordinating. And I was like, I'm going to do it anyways. I want financial security. I want financial security, and I think I should do it in this form. Being habitual about saving and investing conservatively, by the way, like, I'm very conservative when I say that, saving and investing has really assisted me in my financial independence, like, so much so. So sometimes we will subordinate to a should, and it's not a bad thing. It means that we most likely have some other value on it, right? That it's going to align with our purpose.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you, because
pay attention.
Similar story where I was gonna have my first, like, real estate deal, because I had gotten licensed in real estate last year, and I was about to have a pretty big deal. It was like gonna be like a $800,000 luxury condo. That was like my first sale, which is like a pretty big sale, and we ended up losing it because at the end, because I was with a mentor at the time too, like, we went in there together, and she was like, oh yeah, he said you were too unprofessional and he didn't feel comfortable going with us. And I was like, what did I do? Like, I was like, so should I not be authentic and be myself?
Well,
and yeah, that was the confusing part, because I was trying to stay professional, but then also, like, be myself and, like, be kind of funny. And he didn't take that, because I made a joke. I did make a joke. I guess he didn't take it the right way.
This is beautiful, because it's like, this is the reflection component, and
it's hard.
Self-awareness takes time. In that moment, it sounds like you were working with your mentor, so it's actually your mentor's client more so than yours. Yeah, a little bit. Is that accurate?
It was my deal. So,
it's
like,
your deal.
I actually got the deal. He reached out to me first.
Okay.
And I wasn't comfortable going in alone.
Okay. So you brought your mentor in.
Yeah, and she basically did everything for me, and I was just there.
And this is where we make that choice, right? And this is funny, because I giggle about this all the time. If like, I have a really high value on my business. I love my business. Okay. I absolutely adore it. I love it. And anyone who's worked with me, they have this experience. If they listen, they totally know what I'm talking about. When you first start working with me, I actually am a bit of a chameleon, and I'll mold and shape myself to ensure that I can connect with you, that I could help you. I could help you feel so comfortable that we're getting the work done, right? And once we start to get the work done and you feel relief and you feel better every day and you're starting to shift through, like, whatever sorrows or sadness you're feeling, that's when I start to take away the chameleon and be more myself, right? Because at that point, I know you're getting so much value. It's not a big deal. Carly can be a little weird. Carly sometimes can swear. Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah.
Like, it is what it is. But in the beginning, I, by choice, subordinate to all my clients and you guys to ensure that I can make that connection to such a degree. It's almost like I'm trying to build a friendship, right? So there's, when I say that everything serves a purpose, I mean everything serves a purpose. My lack of authenticity in that moment is actually built and created to make sure that I can build an authentic connection with you and authentically help you get to the other side, right? Because that's the most important thing to me. That feeds my soul. That feeds my soul. And I'll do whatever it takes to help you get there. And if you want me to put on a nice face and you want me to talk, sometimes I'll actually like change my tone. I see that there's certain people when they've gone through such a level of trauma, like I hear myself changing my tone and how I talk and how I speak to them. And until they get through that trauma, then I just talk like a normal person. I talk like Carly. So it's like we do it depending on the outcome we want to get. If I sit there and I say I should be myself, it's like, well, according to who? I'm not being myself in that moment, because for me, it's more important to chameleon into helping you guys get the transformation and feeling better, right? Because I get it. Sometimes the things that I say, if I'm just gung-ho and go hard with someone who's like just got out of crazy trauma, like I'm like, come on, slow down, Car. Like this person needs some baby steps, right? Some empathy, a different level of connection. So yeah, it depends on what's important to you. But if someone tells me, for example, what's like like how to dress and stuff. This doesn't go well with me. So someone might tell me like I have to show up and wear a suit and I have to look crazy professional in a very specific way, and I should look plain. Not one person has gotten me to do that. I have too high of a value on fashion. And so it's like, okay, I also recognize that this is where it's like finding your niche, right? Finding the people that resonate with you. The person who wants the individual who looks very corporate and very professional in like a more plain suit, I'm definitely not there. They're not going to be my target market. I don't feel comfortable. Like I genuinely don't feel comfortable. I'll wear a suit, but it might be like a really colorful one that's like baggy and like hip looking, like hipster or something, right? Like I'll wear it. It's just not going to be normal. And it's not to say the other one's bad. It's just that's who I am. So for me, it's like I actually seek out and try to find clients who have similar values or similar interests. And that's part of finding our niche, right? And like I said, it's like, if I change myself, it's because I'm just trying to get someone through a trauma. And I recognize that your nervous system is on edge. And until we get that nervous system off edge, it's like, I'm going to be on edge with you. And I'm going to be empathetic in that sense. And I'm going to pay attention to that. And I'm going to coordinate like appropriately, right? Otherwise, it's like, yeah. So there's certain aspects where it's pay attention. If you're judging yourself for subordinating and living by a should, ask yourself the question why, because you'll see there's a different meaning behind it. And it's a great opportunity, again, to really connect. Because when I say sit down, if you should yourself, sit down and say according to who, right? And it's like, okay, well, I should do this according to that person. Is that really going to serve me? And if you're like, actually, yes, because it helps me reach my end goal, then go for it. But if you're like, no, it actually isn't going to help me reach my end goal, it's going to make it more confusing, say, what would I really love to do instead? Right? What would I love to do? And do that.
Yeah, well, because what happened for me was, I'll just tell you what really happened. We were, because like real estate agents, you have to like check the house out, whatever. I literally just said like the first thing that came to my mind, and I was telling my mentor, I was like, so I guess I should tone that back, like not say the first thing that comes to my mind, because he had this like chair swing thing in front of the thing, and I said like an inappropriate thing. I guess I just said that looks like a sex swing.
I was gonna say, I feel like I know what you were thinking, because my brain went the same place.
Yep, that was the first thing. Like I was just like, why do you just have a swing chair thing in the middle of your house? And that's just the first thing that came to my mind, and I thought it was kind of funny. I wasn't like like, oh, like that's disgusting. Like I wasn't being judgmental about it at all. No, not at all. I was just like, that's kind of funny. It looks like a sex swing.
That's hysterical.
And I guess that was the thing that like turned him off for me.
Okay. And this is really cool too, because when we think about this is just connect. This is like connecting with your audience, right? Yeah. So if I'm on a podcast that is focused, and the demographic, I was just on one like that was with teens, right? The demographic was teenagers. I am going to tone down my language like it's nobody's business, right? Like, and so first, whenever you're in front of someone, it's not actually to say there's a client out there, probably someone who's like, there's someone listening
like,
right
was
now.
on my like level.
Yeah, who's gonna be like, that would have made me laugh so hard. So first, whenever we're in any business relationship, it's like really get to know the person. And as opposed to going straight to business, you can ask those questions, like just general questions, and see how people start to loosen up. And then once they loosen up, you'll notice and you'll be like, the sex swing thing not gonna fly with this person. Or you'll be like, not only is it gonna fly, but I think they're gonna make better jokes than me on this. I'm going for it. And so it's not a good or bad thing, but what's really cool is when we go through experiences like that, it's like, ooh, maybe I went there too fast without actually understanding the purpose. And then we go back, reflect on it, and say, well, what questions can I ask in the next real estate deal when we're just conversing to see what kind of person it is? Because the truth is whatever he does want to connect on, we love connection. People love to connect, and real estate is all about relationships. So this person basically is a gift to you, because now the next time you're in front of someone, you can ask questions to get to know them. And like I said, real estate is all about relationships, and you build a relationship with the person in front of you, which they appreciate. Right. And then you can be yourself according to like that area of life or that focus or that topic that you see that they can connect with. It's really cool. Yeah. So it kind of like, it's a really like, we look at the challenge and we're like, oh, wow, that's actually really helpful now, because it's such a great opportunity to reflect and enhance on it. And a funny story that you'll probably tell one of your clients one day who does have a sex swing in the house. Be like, funny story.
Yeah, there's probably maybe if I do enough deals, I'll come across that.
Yeah, but, possible. Yeah.
But no, I think this was a really good conversation. I feel like we could just keep on going, to be honest. But I am gonna lead into my like final questions. But before my final questions, I have a game that I would like to play with you that I just started. It's called Where Should We Begin? A Game of Stories. And it's a card game. There's one prompt card that sets the mood for the story. And then there's one inspiration card to help you start your story. This is just to connect more on a deeper level with all of my guests. So it's completely random.
Okay. I'm ready.
So the prompt card is share something unbelievable. And then the story card is completely random. There's like 500 cards in here.
Cool.
Okay, so share something unbelievable I haven't told anyone how I feel about.
Share something unbelievable I haven't told anyone how I feel about. Okay. What have I not talked about a lot yet? Yeah, I was like, I'm trying to think of what I haven't really shared like publicly on podcasts. I'm like, I got this. So something that's quite unbelievable, right? That I would say, I think it's like hard for people to understand, is there was a time when I had a significant quantity of self-harm, right? I actually have scars on parts of my body from what I was doing. And what's unbelievable about it is how I transformed it. Okay. So when I tell you about looking at the benefits of why you do things in certain behaviors, someone might be like, well, you can't look at the benefits of why you would self-harm. Like, that's just a bad idea. What was wild, this was probably one of the most transformational things I ever did. I did benefit after benefit after benefit after benefit of each moment I harmed myself until I could see the purpose of why I did it to such a degree, I swear I burst into tears. not tears of sadness, but tears of gratitude. And I just started, it poured out of me. And I was like, I get it. I'm not a bad person. I'm not a crazy person. I was like, this is why I'm doing it. And it was funny because the person who was helping me go through this, obviously, I'm a coach. I have not one coach, many coaches. So the one I selected to help me go through this, she asked me the question that we ask, I ask my clients as well, to confirm that we've nailed it. If I could change this, would you want me to take it away? And I looked at her and I burst into tears again. And I said, no. I love myself. I appreciate myself. The second I got to that point, I stopped. Like, you just stopped. Like, it was done. It was over. And the craziest thing about it was I was like, I just stopped doing it. I used to pick at my skin with tweezers. And this is the even crazier part. I know, this is even crazier. I decided like a month later, I was like, I have not done it once, right? And I was like, I'm actually curious to see what it feels like now because I just don't do it anymore. And when I tried, my skin sensitivity had come back on board. It's like before, when I hadn't loved and appreciated and understood it for what it was, my skin was numb. And so I didn't feel the pain. And then when I tried it again that month later, it was so painful because I could actually feel it. And so what's amazing is like when I tell you guys like get grateful for something, it's like the second you get grateful for it, it gives it permission to transform. It's like the second I didn't want to get rid of it or hate myself, it shifted naturally. I didn't think about it. I didn't have to do anything except just wake up and work on myself. It was amazing. So it's to me, that was like the most unbelievable shift. Yeah. I loved it.
What was the reason, I guess?
It was really cool. One of the biggest things that it really helped me with is in those moments, I was feeling so challenged by one or many things that when I did it, it's like I got to reconnect with my body and I could feel again. It's funny, like people say, they would use breath work or whatever and sit down to reconnect. And I don't know, I didn't have time for breath work. It's not something I thought of. So I pull out a tweezer, do something really quick and call it a day. But it was crazy because it just reconnected me. And to the degree that you think you're doing something that's like bad or wrong, like it was the very thing that got me reconnected and grounded enough to just get back to life. And it was wild.
That's kind of crazy.
It's insane. I know when I say it was unbelievable, it was an unbelievable self-discovery. And as soon as I realized it, it just stopped. It was phenomenal. It just stopped. It was amazing. Yeah.
So you were like basically like hurting yourself to like get present? Is that
get present? Yeah. It was
of
my form of getting present and reconnecting. Yeah, it was amazing. And as soon as I loved the behavior for what it was, it gave it permission to naturally transform into something else. Because the coolest learning about this that I had that really cemented this in when it comes to human behavior is that I'm not a bad person. There was nothing wrong with me, but this was the best strategy that I had. And because I didn't know why I was doing it, because I was like just judging myself, I couldn't even think of another strategy. And now if I'm in that position, I have other strategies, right? But I didn't even know that I needed that until I went through and saw why I was doing something. And then I got grateful for it. And my brain's like, oh, you don't really have to do it in that form. We have all these other tools. And I naturally transitioned into using all these other tools that I had. Oh, I love, like, if I get really stressed out, like, it depends on the level, right? Sometimes I'll just do breath work. Sometimes I'll go outside for a walk with my dog, right? Sometimes I'll disconnect and I'll just go hang out with like family or friends or something. Sometimes I'll listen to a podcast. Sometimes I'll catch up with friends on WhatsApp. Another thing, if it's incredibly stressful, I actually just look in the mirror and I breathe and I do eye-to-eye connection with myself, right? Which is interesting. And that naturally came forward after, where I remember being in a really stressful moment and thinking normally I would have done like the skin picking. And I just looked at myself in the mirror and I breathed and it got me reconnected with myself. It's really cool. Sometimes like if I'm super stressed, I'll just rub my body like feel it, right? Because that's all I was
Hug
doing. I
yourself.
was like,
You can
yeah,
hug yourself.
you hug yourself, and I'm like, I just need to feel it. I'll give myself like a massage, like I'll be stressed and I'll just give
Yeah.
myself a massage. I reconnect to my body. Yeah. So that was
That
it's
is
just,
interesting
I know,
that that
so
was your
amazing.
first. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um yeah, that was a good story. Unbelievable story.
Yeah.
Um but to move on to my final questions, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. I have 5 questions
Okay.
that I ask all of my guests. The first question is, what is your biggest regret?
I um don't really is this funny because whenever I have a regret, I go back to work on it to make sure I don't regret anything.
Right?
Like that's like the thing I do. I was like, do I have any regrets right now? Yeah, so whenever, that's a hard one because anything, I'm like, what if I unresolved? Anything that I regret is basically something that I haven't seen the perfection of the choices that I've made quite yet, right? That would be
Mm,
what a regret is. And I can't think of anything big anymore. I used to regret not starting my business sooner until I
mm,
realized that as opposed to starting my business early on, I really focused on the personal development journey. And you see how excited I get about it. I mean, just talked about like a story about like self-harm and I got like all lit up, right? Like I love this. So it makes sense that I did that first and then I made a business out of it instead of like doing a business and then learning the personal development later. But I would say that was a
mm.
regret that I used to have, that when I worked through it, I was like, nah, you did it in the right order for Carly, just for
Yeah.
Carly. Yeah.
No, yeah,
Uh,
that's why I kind of asked this question because it's kind of like a trick question. Because,
yeah.
like, our regrets are kind of like, you don't, like, live life with no regrets, right? And
Yeah.
then, or, or you want to use your regrets as, like, learning lessons.
Like a
Like, oh, yeah,
lesson.
that's what I learned, so
Yeah.
I
That's
don't
beautiful.
regret it.
Yeah.
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 Uh, Next question is, who or what has made the biggest impact in your life that
Mm-hmm.
makes you who you are?
Yeah, that individual, one of them was that individual I told you about. The sexual experience from my childhood has been such like a gift in my life, like having that challenge. And my family for sure. My family for sure. I've been really close with my family and they've been a huge integral part of my life. And then some mentors that I've had, the things that they have taught me, the things that they have even challenged me with, like even mentors that have challenged me that I disconnected from. And then it's like, whoa, when I go back and do the lessons, I was like, wow, like I was blinded by one side, like, and I just took everything they said for the gospel. Like, of course I had a challenge with them. And when I go back and see the wisdom that I got as well, it's like, man, yeah, mentors, family, yeah, and that really challenging individual beginning of life. Yeah, it just really shaped who I am today.
That's a good way to
Mm,
look at it.
yeah.
Because, just the way you brought that up, some people that went through like something similar, they may
Mm.
think like the exact opposite.
I
Like,
know.
how could I ever,
Yeah.
like, how could I ever
Yeah.
be grateful for that?
When I share that story, my intention is to help people realize that there's another side. And
Mm,
I would absolutely love, like, for them to understand that and have the certainty that if even if they hadn't found it yet, like, there's ways to get through it and get over it. And just, yeah,
mm.
even if I plant that little seed, that's enough. That's enough. Just think about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What, or, no, first question. What is one lesson you learned the hard way?
So many. Like so many. um, I think a really fun one. Actually, like, yeah, I'm again so grateful for it. But it was like a really fun one. Was I in the very beginning of my entrepreneurial career, I fell into the trap where people say, quit your job and your business will start right away. I totally fell into that trap. Yeah. And I lost all my money, and it was a really fascinating experience. I was where I was living, and I was like living in like a poverty sort of lifestyle at that point, right? And it was really quite fascinating, and it was really humbling. So I definitely learned it the hard way. And again, I am still super grateful. Like I really learned so much from that journey, and it wasn't even to see how you can make the best with what you have was probably one of the greatest gifts I've ever received, to just be like, make the best with what you have. And that was really beautiful. And it was also really humbling because after, I think it was 2 years, I finally got rid of that fantasy in my head and went and got a part-time job, which funded all the education and travel that created the business that I have today. Until I was like, thank you guys.
Sometimes you have to you have to do that. You have to do things that you don't necessarily want to do to get to that step that you want to be in. Like sometimes you have to have a 9 to 5, even though you may not like it, to get where you want to be.
Yeah. And every time I built my business, I would think, and I'd go to work, right? I'd be like, this job is paying for me to build my business. And I was like, as opposed to me draining my savings account, going broke, going in debt, I was like, this job pays me to build my business. And that made me grateful to be there. Every day I was there, I felt grateful because the money I could reinvest in what I loved until I actually built that business. So that's the way I like to think of it. For any of you guys that are still in a 9 to 5 building your business, every time you go there, think this pays me to live the life that I love and have a job that I love on the outside that doesn't have to be a burden or a panic attack to get started. Like I can actually enjoy building my business.
For real. That's literally, that's real estate. It takes, I think I spent like at least $5,000 just trying to get started, and then from there there's like a yearly like $1,000, basically like a membership in real estate to just keep your license and keep all of the like key accesses and everything. But what about like, how do you get people to really feel and practice gratitude? Because there's like, like just be grateful, like just do your daily gratitude, but how do you really feel it? Because somebody could be like, oh yeah, I'm grateful, but not really feel it.
So here's the thing about gratitude, right? And this is the key. It is easy for me to wake up this morning and say, I'm grateful that I get to take my boxing class. I'm grateful I get to be on a podcast. I'm grateful that I get to do some school. I have some online school stuff to do. I'm grateful that I get to work on my business. I'm grateful I have some clients. That's easy. What I could say is harder is that like I spilled glass all over the floor last night and I was like, I gotta clean the whole floor today, right? And I had to get in there and really, when I say I spilled, it just shattered everywhere, and I have a dog. So when I went to bed last night and I broke something at 10 p.m. and I wanted to go to bed, I did not feel grateful in that moment. So it's really easy for me to say gratitudes for things that I'm already grateful for. That's not going to make you feel more grateful. But when I'm sitting there picking that glass up off the floor and I'm feeling frustrated and angry, that's the moment that I say, how is this serving me? For everything that I don't want to do, those are the things that we say, how are those things serving me? Because that's where you're missing gratitude. And then you'll feel more gratitude. So don't repeat the things you already know you have gratitude for. You already know that. Find the things you're not grateful for and ask how it serves you until you have gratitude. And then all of a sudden you feel more grateful for the day because you've added gratitude to your soul.
Yeah, it's kind of, I think that's a key factor actually that sets people apart. Like those rags to riches stories.
Yes.
Or opposed to people that were like born into wealth or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's truth to that. When you go through adversity and you've went through hard times, you really appreciate when you get through that and then you live a life of like abundance or whatever.
It's different feeling.
You can,
Yeah.
yeah, opposed to somebody that was just like you were born into it or were
Yeah.
given it.
That's a cool thing too, because even if you're building your wealth or you have great wealth, if you hold your kids accountable in the sense where, let's say you have great wealth, you want to give them a great life, but still hold them accountable for the things that they're receiving. This is why you see a lot of people who and kids who inherit wealth, they don't do well with it. They lose it. And the reason why is because they never got held accountable to learn how to manage it. They just know how to spend money because nobody ever taught them how to make it or forced them to make it. But what's really cool is the wealthy individuals who had the parents who were kind of rough on them and harder on them and more challenging with them, right? This is the villain that came through. The parents that allow themselves to be a villain with their kids, not just the hero or the villain. You may be a villain when they're young and you're annoying because you're making them do more chores and they have an allowance while all their rich friends don't, right? But that kid, when they're older, and that friend who had no responsibilities doesn't know how to manage their finances and loses all their money, while you've built businesses and taken that money and built upon it, you appreciate the villain that your parent was. And so it's a really cool example, because it's like, even if you've been given wealth, you can give it to your kids in a way that you make them earn it, make them work for it, make them appreciate it, and then they'll hold on to it, and then they'll learn how to manage it. Because you're right, that's what makes it feel worthwhile. Give them a reason. Yeah. Because I know a lot of people want to build inspiring wealth, so
Yeah. I mean, I think everybody would love to be financially free, which brings me to my next question, actually, is what would you want to experience in life if you had all the time and all the money?
Yeah, well, this is cool. I like to think like that now, right?
Okay.
And it's funny because sometimes we think if we had more money now, we'd be able to get to do more. One day, I will definitely. I'm gonna open a hotel. I love hotels. It's so inspiring to me.
Really?
I will open one. What's funny is if someone gave me the money to open a hotel on my own now, I'm like, I'm not quite sure how to do that. And so I can see, to build up to create that income to open the hotel I want, I'll learn everything that's necessary to help it thrive. Right? So I like to think, if I did have enough money or I wanted to do anything, what would that look like? And then when I start to implement it today, and I want everyone to remember this, every step you take to create all that income and all that time is the step that will make sure that you can manage that thing that you're paying for in the future. You know, it's really cool. It's really, really cool. So, and then you appreciate the journey of the creation so much. Because then if someone's like, well, what if you could have it right now, all your dreams? And I was like, this is my dream. My dream is to know how to do it and to not lose it and have it stand the test of time and last beyond my life. And if you just handed it to me without me knowing, I'm not going to be able to do that. I'm living my dream by taking the time and energy to build up to that point. And it's cool because when you can realize that, like, you get the opportunity to do that too. So those big like goals that you have, break them down into all these tiny parts to see what you could do every day. And all of a sudden, you're doing exactly like what you want to do. It's really cool. You can do it every day. Yeah.
No, yeah, that's literally that, like, abundance mindset. Like, you can always do something if it's worth it to you.
Absolutely.
I think that would be fun to have a hotel. How would you, like, compete with Airbnb?
To me, because the vision that I have around it is like, it's, if you are authentically putting forward your vision, there's genuinely no competition. Like, there's going to be other cars that compete with a Tesla, but it's very hard to compete with Elon Musk. Yes? Very hard. Yeah. Okay, that's very hard. He will have emerging technologies that could wipe him out if he doesn't stay on top of his innovation, right? It is Elon Musk though, so I feel like he's going to do it, right? But there are companies who struggle with that, and that's why Elon Musk has superseded them, right? What part of focusing on and understanding your life purpose and vision is to understand the bigger why behind it, so that you could be that person who's naturally innovating, wanting to stay ahead of the game because it's so important to you. It's like you live and breathe it, right? We actually
Mm-hmm.
are living and breathing what's important to us anyways. When I talk about building a life by design, it's creating a life that centers around what you're living and breathing, kind of like Elon Musk. So then you're naturally innovating, you're naturally moving forward. And I mean, I just expect him to figure things out. Why? Because he's on
Yeah.
purpose. He's just on purpose. He's not a special human. He's just
Yeah.
on purpose. So when you gear your life and structure it, kind of like he does, he's a great example. There's plenty of other people who've done it. Oprah does it. She loves speaking, right? But when you build your life around the things that inspire you, you're just going to go for it. And you're going to dedicate your life to that to such a degree that there's not any components that hold you back. And then when you think about the competition, it's not like, how do I outdo them? It's like, well, what are they doing that works? And how do I expand on that? What are they doing that doesn't work? And is that something that I want to fill the gap for? Maybe not. Right? Maybe not. And who's my target client? What does that look like? What am I going to offer that's different than other hotels? You know, and all of a sudden, all these questions become inspiring, and competition is inspiring. It's inspiring. It gets you to ask questions and open up your vision to a greater degree. And I would love for one
Mm-hmm.
day someone to say, like, Carly's hotels are hotels that, like, it's hard to compete with them because she just keeps coming up with these ideas of things and experiences for people to have. And how does she do it? Oh, she's just this crazy person who likes to focus on it all the time. Right? Like, there's a little bit of crazy in that genius over there, right? That's it. That's all I want to do for people. And I'd love for people to do that for themselves as well.
Well, we have to stay connected because I always like to invest in people. So
Yeah.
I'll invest in you.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, this was inspiring
God willing.
conversation.
No, like that's literally that's what you exude that. Like, what do they say? Like, uh, people will start to believe in you when you believe in you.
100%.
Something like
Yeah.
that. So if you like speak with so much like conviction and
Yeah.
passion, um, opposed to like uncertainty and doubt, you know, especially when you're building like a brand or business, people will start to back you naturally.
Yeah. Yeah, they get
So,
inspired. When you're
mm,
inspired, you inspire other people. And it's cool because it's
mm.
like, I love when people sign up from inspiration. I love it so much. Like, I get that you have people and we're in
Yeah.
desperate states and we're challenged, but when you choose me because you're more inspired, I love it. I love working with those people. It's amazing. And it's a different flavor. It's definitely a different flavor because you want a piece of it. You want a piece of the fulfillment, the inspiration, the feeling alive, you know? And it's like, yeah, I want to give it to you. It's really cool. It's really cool. So I agree with that. And it's like, anyone who's listening, what inspires you? How can you create more certainty in it so that when you're out there sharing it with the world, like, you do have individuals who get magnetized to you as a result because of your inspired vision and your mission, because everyone has that, you know? And if you just dedicate your life to that, it's like, what a cool community that you get to build, right? It's really cool. It's really cool to think about it.
Well, I think because what discourages people is we just get like caught up. Like, I feel like you get caught up and you start to feel stuck, and as soon as something goes wrong, you feel like so discouraged and you just like focus on that. But I think when you have like you were saying, like a vision and a mission and like that purpose, it's like none of that matters. Like, it's just
Mm-mm.
temporary. Like, to me, ever
Absolutely.
since I started my podcast, because I'm
Mm-hmm.
very passionate about this, like meeting, connecting with people, um, I feel like I could do it forever because even when I do get discouraged,
Mm-hmm.
I just, I don't know, I see myself doing this for like forever. And that small discouragement doesn't, um, like last, I guess. I don't know how to say
No.
it. It's like,
It's a
it's
moment
only
in
temporary.
time. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's cool. It's a moment in time. The why is bigger than any pride we have, any shame we have. Like, I love clearing prides and shames. And also, it's like, get connected to that why. Because if I can't connect with someone, it's like, how do I make sure you're getting through prides and shames even when they're occurring? Get connected to your why. 100% get connected to that why. Find the bigger piece inside you, because you're right. No matter what's going on in your life, you love this so much. You're going to show up, you're going to record, you're going to share the information, you're going to make it happen. And that's what it's inspiring. And it inspires people to see that, and it makes them want to find their why. You know, it's cool.
So my final question is just, is there any last thing you'd like to say, to share, that we didn't cover?
Yeah, we covered so much. Covered a lot of stuff. I mean, I could talk for days. I feel like you could talk for days too. So, yeah, which is why you have a podcast and I like going on podcasts. In this component, it's like, find the thing that drives you. It's not nebulous. Your life already demonstrates it. These are the things, when I said, you wake up every day and you focus on the things you love to do, want to do, choose to do. You're not focused on the shoulds. Your life purpose isn't what you think it should be. It's what you want to do. It's what you love to do. And then find a way to create your life around it. One of the reasons I love business is because it gives us the opportunity to take the things that we love and actually make money off of it. Most of the time we're spending money on what we love, but if we can figure out how to take what we love and create an income off of it, then man, that's inspiring. That's so inspiring. Like, then all of a sudden it's like, wow, I get to do that, and it's funny. One of the other ones, which is an interesting one, I think most people, we don't notice it, but when it comes to family, like, I have really high value on family. I love my family. And one of the dynamics, I see the Kardashians, right? What does the mom do? She's their agent and she manages them. She makes money helping her kids gain more financial independence and increase their business. I'm going to do that. I was like, I do that. I want to do that anyways. I was like, oh my gosh, you're brilliant. You made a business doing what you love. When I say you can make a business doing what you love, what do you love to do? What do you invest in time in? What's your bigger why? And who out there requires that service? That's one example where the service required the actual clients in the niche was within the family. And sometimes that happens. And then sometimes it's outside of the family. You love bodybuilding. That's also part of your niche. You're going to talk to people who love health and fitness, personal development.
Yeah.
It's a great niche. Personal development and fitness go hand in hand, So it makes sense that you're doing a podcast as well. And so it's like, who are the people that you get to talk to that love what you do? And how do you create products and services that serve them and help them to thrive in their life? All of a sudden, you can get paid to do what you love. You can get paid to do what you love, 100%.
Well, that's kind of crazy. I mean, I'm a big proponent of that. Like, I love everything you're saying, but it is kind of crazy how I even became a podcaster. Like, I didn't even know I was gonna be a podcaster, let alone make content and do this. So yeah, you never know. Even if you feel lost or whatever, you never know where you'll end up finding deep passion and fulfillment.
And that meaning.
Yeah. So, Carly Pepin, everybody. Is there anywhere you'd like people to go?
Yeah, just head on over to my website. You can find whatever social media platform that you love, or connect with me directly there. That's the best place to go. carlypepin.com.
Or you can blow up her DMs if you'd like.
You can do that too. Whatever platform, just go for it.
All right, everybody, go check her out. And as always, stay curious and keep going. Peace.